hitting the button.
Sweet.
Welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds. I'm Nerdcast Dave, and today I am joined by Emma Lambert of WebDM fame. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you, Dave?
I'm doing good, just trying to live my best apocalypse ever.
Exactly. Yes, it's dark and rainy, and I'm trying to stay awake, and I'm wearing actual clothes for the first time in a month.
There you go.
I'm on the internet.
It is a little dreary here. I roll out of bed into these things because time doesn't exist anymore, and I end up staying up way too late and then sleeping in too late. So,
I have a 3-year-old to prevent me from doing that. I'm on a tight timeline that starts around 6 a.m. if I'm lucky.
Yeah,
so I've been up for a very long time.
Yeah, my kids are both older, so they manage themselves mostly.
I can't even imagine what that's like.
You will one day.
Amazing.
You will live it. No, it's just fraught with different perils as a parent.
Yes,
they just change, right? So
they do.
I've been told in my experiences, boys start out hard, and then they get easier, and girls are the opposite. And it's held up true in my life.
I guess. How I guess starting out hard. I don't know. It's like I only have the one, so I don't really know how to compare it. I think he's a lovely boy. He's potty training was pretty easy. Knock on wood.
Yeah, that is good, and I'm sure this is what you people have come for.
Yeah,
for the potty training.
Let's play
talk.
games. Let's talk about children peeing and pooping.
Yeah. Absolutely, but in some ways, I miss it and I don't miss it. So I do actually enjoy talking to other parents about this stuff or seeing other people's kids that I can give back.
Yeah. Yes, I'm sure it's very. I used to teach teenagers. I used to be a tutor for teenagers, and I half know what's coming a little bit because half of my job was tutoring their parents as well.
At what age does Trogdor get into gaming?
Oh, I don't know. We have no Thank You Evil, and on the box it says it starts at 4 or 5.
Yeah.
He is aware of role-playing games and monsters, but for him it's like any other parent talking about work.
Yeah.
And he does an impression of us playing D&D, and he'll go blah 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 and D&D and blah 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 attacks and blah blah blah, blah monsters and stuff, and that's his impression of what we do.
That's great.
And he plays with all of our minis and our Dwarven Forge, and he builds things with it. So we figure we're trying not to force it on him. Do your kids play?
So my daughter has no interest, and my son does, but he's a filthy casual for sure. So he'll pop in and out of games, and he does a lot of computer gaming with his friends online. But it took a while to get him into it as well. I tried running a family game when he was probably in his teens and my daughter was tweens or close to it, and I was like, well, she might enjoy it. I was like, we can make up she was into Monster High at the time, so so we modeled a character off of one of the Monster High characters, and she played a bard shifter, and I gave her the spell cards, and the only thing she really seemed interested in was using the spell cards like they were Pokemon cards or something, which she never played that either, but yeah. So, vicious mockery, I choose you. So definitely, so it didn't stick with either of them, to be honest with you. It wasn't for a couple years later when we were playing a Mutants and Masterminds game, and I asked my son if he wanted to play, and he's like, can I be a purple flying ape from space? I'm like, well, actually, yes, you can. And he was sold.
Awesome.
So.
That's great. Yes, we try to do a lot of playing pretend now, just so that it's maybe we can just never stop playing pretend. And maybe he will not be, if he is embarrassed by us, I want it to be for other reasons. Hopefully.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I think
it's inevitable.
Although I think my daughter likes the fact that I'm a YouTuber, and she she likes to be able to talk about that. But she has no interest. She just calls us nerds. So
That's okay.
Get bullied by my child.
That's I mean, that's part of what they're there for, isn't it?
Yeah.
To give us a hard time.
I have another friend that his methodology was the top shelf method. Like, you put everything out of their reach and be like, nah, this isn't for you. You're too young still.
Oh, how'd that work out?
I think it worked out pretty good, because I think like half of his kids are into it and half of them aren't.
Nice.
You know, and then it gets to the point where they're going to be into it, but they're just not going to be into it with you.
Oh no, of course not.
Because that's not cool.
That wouldn't be cool. We'll see. At this point, I'm on track for a very STEMmy athletic boy, which is the opposite of Jim Davis and I. So, I don't know.
We'll
see what happens.
He's into the sports ball?
He's not into the sports ball, but he is a literal giant. He's not even 4, and he's at the point where, like, I need to measure him, because I think he's grown out of a car seat. I think he's too big for a car seat now, and he's going to be a 3-year-old in a booster.
Yeah.
And he's very coordinated, and he likes running and jumping and stuff. And
cool.
He is, yes. We'll see. We have not introduced him to like competitive sports yet, mostly because mommy does not want to sit through a competitive sport with a bunch of 3-year-olds.
Yeah.
But
it's it's tough. Still,
yeah.
I think he's still young for that anyway. Or just in general, not him specifically, but I see some of these parents and they're insane with this stuff. I'm like, he's 3. Oh, yeah. He's not going to the Olympics.
Yeah, no, it's true. In Texas, it was people would be asking us already, are you starting Pee Wee football yet? And it's like, hell no. I'm not starting Pee Wee football. No. Maybe LARPing. Maybe we can get him into LARPing. That would be cool.
Yeah, that would be cool. Oh my God, Ted's son, my nephew, had like by that age had already had a couple concussions. So the thought of football, he's like his mother's already banned him from any kind of contact sports because he's had a bunch of concussions already.
Oh no!
I forget what the first one was, but it's like once you get one, it gets easier and easier to get them. Mm-hmm. I'm like, you need to put a helmet on that kid.
Seriously. No, you got to be careful with those things.
I think the first one was he stood up in the shopping cart at the store and fell out on his head. And they're like concrete floors. So, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. That's awful.
I know. I'm like, Ted, your kids' heads are made of paper mache.
I'm very lucky that my child has not inherited my sense of balance.
Yeah.
I'm like a 6 or 7 decks in real life type person. I fall down all the time. They tested me when I was a child to be like, what's wrong with you in gym class? And they're like, you grow like 7 inches a year and your brain's not caught up. And so you're just falling down all the time. And it never stopped.
Oh.
My entire life. My entire life.
Well,
I broke my wrist walking into a wall once.
Oh no. Well, my wife did break her foot standing up.
Ooh.
She was like, it fell asleep or something, and then she stood up on it and crunched.
Oh, gosh. That's awful.
Yeah.
This is a very RPG.
I know.
Tight.
You know, sometimes it feels like we talk about RPGs all the time, and it's cool to just, like, delve into other things and, like, the people behind them, I guess.
Yeah.
Are you guys gaming more or less since the pandemic? Or the same?
Less. It's less, but it has nothing to do with the pandemic. Mostly, we have one group here that we were trying to play with some of our friends who'd never played any tabletop at all. That we were trying to play in person with, and the pandemic sort of knocked that out. But it was really hard to meet at a certain time anyway, which is a shame because it's so much fun to play with like total noobs. It's my favorite thing because we just let them. They're just like, what do you want to do? And I'm playing and Jim's running and I'm playing a life cleric who's also a coward, which I'm doing that to force them to make all the decisions.
Yeah.
So that they don't just look at me like, what do you do? And like my character is just like gonna say, get the fuck out of here. I don't want to be here anymore.
Run away.
And so that got knocked out. And then I was right now we're just sort of in between streamed games, and we're trying to figure out what we're gonna do next. So yeah, I'm not playing in any active games like online right now. I have an offline D&D game that we're playing just with friends. And that's really refreshing because it's been 2 years or so since I had like a consistent game that wasn't in public.
Yeah.
And like I like stream games, but there's something a little different about like knowing that it's private. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they're two different experiences, and like when you're just playing with your friends, you're just and playing for fun. You're not worrying about am I being entertaining enough? You know, is this part of the game moving too slow?
Yeah,
You don't have to worry about that stuff.
This awareness of it, and like even I find like the best streamed games are the closest to the real game. Real game. It's not. It is real games. Closest to offline like games where like my focus is on just like trying to entertain myself and everybody who's playing the most, and usually that's what's going to be like the best streamed game in my opinion. But it's very easy to just like keep your eye on like where do the viewers want this to go, and so it's fun.
There's little things too about a non-stream game, like things like just getting up to use the restroom, or grabbing something to drink, or you're eating pizza or whatever you're doing while you play your game.
Yeah, or taking some time to think through a ruling.
Yeah.
In that way, like we've started doing. I've done a couple of games that turned into podcasts in the last year or so, and that's been sort of the most refreshing thing about that is like you can just be like, I need to think through how I want this to go. I'm going to go and take 10 minutes. Everybody, let's take 10. Or you can be like, oh, I don't like how I did that. Can I do this? Like if I have my big speech, can I give my big speech again? Which is nice because I need that myself because I'm not good with words.
Oh, I feel that so hard. Yeah, so I mean, early on we weren't like say streaming our games, but we would just set up like a camera and have our games get recorded and throw it up.
Right.
And then after a while, we're like, well, there's a lot of people streaming games right now, and they're doing it way better than what we're doing. Let's just play our game. And now we've come back and we're doing a little bit of streaming, but we still have a bunch of games that are offline, even though, they are online technically, but not streamed at the moment. And and that's fun too, is just getting together. And I recommend if everybody is a streamer have at least one game that's like their home game, and it's
absolutely
not being recorded. You're just doing it to do it.
Yeah, just low stakes. It's you're doing it for you, and I totally agree. And we're kind of thinking about it. Actually, now I'm doing more gaming in the pandemic than I was before. I thought I was doing less, but I'm actually doing more.
I think we're doing a little bit more, but part of it was we were moving in that direction anyway, because like earlier on what we would do is we would like Ted would run a game, I would run a game, and then we'd have someone else run a game that that wasn't going to be D&D, and they were just monthly games. And it just like helped us to have the GMs not burn out and keep the games going. And we would like switch up the groups, so we play with a bunch of different people.
Yeah, I think like Travis played in like your Marvel Face Rip game back in the day, right?
Yeah.
That's a good one.
That was a lot of fun, and I was excited when we decided to do that because to invite Travis, because I knew he was like a fan, especially of the genre and the game. He was great to have on there.
That's an understatement to say he is a fan of the genre. He is. I remember playing a game that I can't remember if it was him or his brother who was running it, of Marvel Face Rip years and years ago, and I didn't really know much about. Honestly, I didn't know much about any pop culture before I met Jim Davis, and of course we met when we were very young. But I was a hippie child who through middle school, like I didn't watch any TV, like I wasn't allowed, like it was hippie child. And so everything I know about Marvel or superheroes is pretty much from Jim and Travis. And so I remember trying to play that game when I was like maybe 20 or 21 and having no idea what's going on. And like, it was like a tidal wave of knowledge coming at me with these people. So I had them like you make me the character, I will play it and I will learn. and that's how I know most about Marvel stuff. 'Cause I
Yeah.
don't watch the movies.
Yeah, I when you say that, I'm thinking, I was like, wow, that is a lot of information with no context.
Oh yeah.
So,
Oh yeah. No, it's yes, it is. It's a lot of information with no context, but it's, I mean, it's it's a cosmology, and you kind of
yeah,
learn how everything goes more or less. I know enough so that I can, the way some people talk about, like, this is how you talk to football fans.
yeah,
Like, you just say, yep, oh, that was a bad pass. Like, I know how to do that with Marvel.
yeah.
Marvel and DC. I like DC a little better. But yes.
You can fake your way through. Yeah, that's how I got into reading comics. Like, we started playing Marvel Phase Rip when I was a teenager, and like, I at that time I really didn't know that much about comics, but we were using like the pre-made characters, and everyone had already picked like all the Incredible Hulk and Silver Surfer and Thor. So I picked another character that was of the same power scope, and then I just happened to want to know more about that character. And so I wandered into the comic book store, and I was like, hey, I want to know about this character. And they're like, that character's part of Alpha Flight, blah, blah, blah. No one reads that. And then I was like, cool, I'll take those.
Sweet. That's a good introduction. I read some Thor in college.
Yeah.
Mostly for college, because I took a couple classes on Scandinavian folklore, and mostly just because I wanted to write papers about Thor.
Yeah.
And so I read a bunch of Thor, and that's pretty much, like, in terms of like straight up superhero stuff, that's the only thing I've really ever read.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed in the movies that they don't have him use the archaic language, because that was like that's like my favorite part about Thor.
Yes.
Have at thee.
That is true. I miss that too. Those are the only Marvel movies that I make sure that I see. Like, I kept up for a few years.
Yeah.
With Marvel, like, before I had a kid, like, I'd go and see them all the time, especially when we were living in Austin, and there's like really, like, the movie theaters that'll feed you lunch.
Yeah.
And you can put your feet up. I'm like, if I can put my feet up in public, then I'm going to go do this thing. But since we had a kid, it's like, I can't keep up with this shit at all.
Yeah, it is hard when they're little to get out and do things as an adult.
I think I've seen 6 movies in 4 years.
That sounds about right.
Right? Yes. One of them was Ragnarok.
That
was fun.
We've been pretty fortunate in that my in-laws have always been kind of close to us and been willing to take the kids.
Yes. Ours do that so we can make WebDM.
Yeah.
At this point, pandemic time, that's what we do. So we're trying to get him to watch things, but he's not. No, I think he's seen maybe one movie in his entire life.
Yeah, it's figuring out that age when like that's a parent moment when you sit them down in front of a movie, and then they watch the whole movie all the way through. I don't remember what it was for my son, but for my daughter, it was Underdog.
Underdog.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I've got he'll watch the first half of WALL-E because it's about garbage.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's his favorite thing, is garbage and garbage trucks.
That used to be an
garbage truck.
That used to be an insult for my son. He would call people trash. I don't know where he got that from when he was like right around that age, around 3. That, and he wanted to take off a head. Like, if you're sitting on the floor, he'd come behind you and grab your head and be like, take a head off. I'm like, why are you trying to take a head off?
That's really great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. He cuts to the quick.
Yeah. Well, and now he'll be like, I guess he's going to be 20 this year.
Whoa.
So, time flies. Now he's like a man person.
Yeah.
That my wife has to get up and make sure he's up to go to work. I don't know. I'm like, why are you doing that? He's an adult-ish. Yeah.
I wish I had somebody to wake me up when I was 20.
Yeah.
I was not good at that when I was 20 either.
Like, you're probably away at college or something.
Oh, me? Actually, no. I was at 20. I was married to Jim Davis already.
Oh, wow. That's early.
Yeah, we've been married for 15 years now.
Okay.
We've been there. Yes. For those who don't know, I'm married to Jim Davis.
I got married in 98. So,
nice.
22 years. But I was like 22, 23, so a little bit older.
That's how old Jim was, and I was 20.
See, my wife is a couple years older than me.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah. So for her, I guess it was like the about the right age. I know she was chomping at the bit because like all of her friends were getting married.
Oh no. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that was not happening with us. For us, it was mostly like, I don't know why. It was convenience, and partially, it was mostly like we loved each other and we wanted to, and partially because we were both getting back into school, and we're like, hey, if we get married, that means that like we get way more financial aid.
Oh, really? It was
Yeah.
tactical.
It's partially. It was like 10% that, and like 90% we love each other,
Yeah.
and we're gonna do this, and like we're gonna be together forever. We're 19 and 20, and
That'll help your marriage last too. At least through college, anyway. Like, oh, this person is driving me nuts, but the financial aid's really good right now.
seriously, Pell Grants.
Yeah.
Pell Grants. Get married for Pell Grants, kids.
That's an advanced technique. I have not heard that one before.
I'm a planner, as they say. I like sorting through things and seeing what I can get out of them. I'm very thrifty.
Nice.
I read a contract. But yeah, no, we've been married for a very, very long time. We've been playing games that whole time. And we've actually worked together most of that time since college.
Oh, wow.
WebDM is not the first time that we've worked together. We used to be tutors and college, like private college guidance counselors together. That's what we did before WebDM started, actually. And we also very briefly both worked at the IRS, but in different departments.
Oh, he gave up one of those sweet, sweet government jobs.
He did. I didn't. I worked there for the summer.
Uh-huh.
I worked in the mailroom at the IRS for a summer. And no, but Jim worked, he was like a tax examiner for like 4 years.
Oh, that sounds evil.
It does, doesn't it? It's actually not that evil. It's mostly just like, did you fill out these 14 boxes? Yes. Okay, I'm going to pass it on.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. But yes, that's the illustrious experience required to become a YouTuber, is work at the IRS and be a tutor for high school and college kids.
Yeah, having been self-employed for a few years now, I feel a certain way about the IRS.
Oh yes, I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. It's interesting. It's a weird place to be. It's a very strange, like, place to just sort of exist in. I worked in one of the bigger centers in Austin, Texas, and they had all of the mailroom is like hermetically sealed.
Yeah.
Because people occasionally like sent anthrax to the IRS. And so they're like, this is hermetically sealed. If any of you find anything weird, then they're locking down the building and you'll be stuck in here and everybody else has to leave. Okay.
That sounds great. Not so much.
They also make you take an oath to lay down your life to protect the Constitution. Which I thought was a little much for like a
working in the mailroom.
like a temp night job in the mailroom at the IRS. Like, I'm not sure I really want to do that. I'm just doing mail. That's too much responsibility for this pay grade.
Yeah.
Do that.
You had to physically take an oath?
Yeah, it was like in like at the end of orientation, they're like, oh, we're almost done with orientation. Just real quick, let's just take an oath to defend the Constitution. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll do that.
And that was in Texas. That sounds like definitely hand on a Bible kind of thing.
There were no Bibles, thankfully. It is the federal government.
Yeah.
There were big portraits of all of the presidents. I think at that point, it was still George W. And so there's a picture of him like everywhere.
Yeah.
That was a little weird. But other than that, it was nice. Fabulous office chairs. I can say that about the IRS. Like articulated. I looked them up afterwards, and you can buy them for yourself, but they cost $1,800 a chair. And there are thousands of them.
That's why people don't trust the government. Because that's what our taxpayer dollars are going towards.
Well, they're probably going to that because somebody did some kind of statistical calculation for how much it would cost to do workers' comp for people getting repetitive back injuries.
Wow.
Opening mail.
That's very optimistic. I believe it's
Yes.
because somebody's uncle works at that company, And they make a lot of money when those chairs are bought.
Oh, probably so. I will say though, fantastic chairs.
Mm-hmm.
A+.
Yeah.
Tried to steal one every day, never worked out. It would have been my crowning achievement of my entire career if I managed to steal a chair from the federal government, but I didn't. I'm sorry, you're gonna have to delete this.
Maybe you could run a Mission Impossible style game to get the chairs.
That's a good idea.
I couldn't do it in real life, but gosh darn it, in an RPG, I will own the chairs.
The only more comfortable office chair I've ever sat on is I got to sit on the chair of a Travis County judge in court. I can't tell you the details, but I managed to administer a mock SAT test in a courtroom. And I got to sit on the judge's chair while I watched all these kids taking a standardized test. And it was the most comfortable, like, seated experience of my entire life.
That's what a $3,600 chair looks like.
Something like that. I tried to figure out what it was. As far as I can tell, it was a custom-made chair.
Oh.
For the judge who normally sits upon it, because that's their courtroom and they don't ever move, and so they get to put whatever they want in there. And I always thought it was very strange, like custom chair, custom like post-it thing. It's like it's all very personal, but at the same time, it's a courtroom.
Yeah,
it's very strange.
Brian in the chat says if ever there was a cursed item, it would be that chair.
Which one? The judge's chair?
I think the judge's chair. I think, well, maybe both. But for different reasons, they affect you differently. Although I do like the idea of a cursed chair that is so comfortable once you sit in it, you do not want to get up.
I would be extra susceptible. I would get disadvantage on those checks. I enjoy lounging quite a bit.
If the world's going to end, I could save it, or I could just sit in this chair.
I could just sit in the chair. I mean, what else are we all doing right now, really? If you don't have to go to work. Sitting on a chair.
Yeah.
Why not?
What do you guys have? Are you guys in the middle of a season for stream games now?
In the middle of a season, we are sort of in between. Okay. We have one game going right now on the channel. None of us are in it, but it's Nice Black Agents Dracula Dossier. I'm pretty sure I think it's the Gumshoe system.
Okay.
I know that one. It's all like vampire hunters and intrigue, and I think everybody has like boyfriends and girlfriends, love interests, and they're all vampires, and none of them are, and it's all over the place. It's an interesting system because it requires the players to prep as much as the GM does, and like they have to like put prep in to decide like what they're going to like discover and figure out, and like there's a whole book that they have to read that gives them leads. But after that, I'm not quite sure what exactly we're going to do. We've got a few things in the pipeline, but we're just sort of figuring it out. I'm thinking of how I do something that actually gets me running games, because I've actually only run like 5 games in my whole life. 5 sessions, I should say. And one of those was like on stream for Satine and at least Penrose and a bunch of other people.
No pressure.
No pressure. No. And yeah, fun fact, that one was also the very first thing that the Critical Role channel ever hosted.
Oh, nice.
That game. And that was like my 5th time running a game ever. I did that game, and then I had a panic attack and went to sleep. I'm glad it was like in that order. But I want to have a thing where I run games, and I want to call it Emma Runs Games Poorly. But my friend Grant Ellis thinks I should just call it Emma Runs Games. I'm telling him.
Well, you can add the poorly part in your head if you really need to.
The title's not accurate without the poorly. But
I don't know if I believe it. I'm sure those games are just fine, and your players have a lot of fun.
I'm sure they're okay. I'm sure they are adequate. But yeah, I need to do something. I just don't know what it is yet, or when I'm going to have the time to.
Well, that's the other thing. That is the tricky thing. You and Jim just passing Trogdor back and forth as you web DM.
Yeah, no, literally, that's what the web DM schedule for the two of us is. Our lives are on a 3-hour block schedule where we we trade who's taking care of whom, with grandma helping a little bit too.
Yeah.
And so yeah, figuring out how that's going to work on top of all the other things that we're doing and trying to get started is.
Do you have a set number of streams that you kind of go for, like, you know, for a season or whatever, or it's whatever you guys are feeling at the time?
It's really what everybody's feeling. I think the it starts to get, when it starts to get like an obligation, starts to get unfun, is when it gets to be not worth doing. Because for us, it's a lot more about, you know, being a way to stay engaged with, you know, what we like about gaming. And staying connected to that and letting people who want to see that, you know, they can come and see it if they want to. But it's never been like, you know, like a streaming channel where it's like, you have to have this many games and you got to keep it up. And because for us, it's just for love of the game, you know? When
I look at some of the streamers and how much they play, or how much they stream, I'd start thinking that maybe I don't like the game as much. I'm like, you know, when you see some of the channels, they're streaming like 8-9 games a week, and like,
oh yeah, I couldn't do it. I think the most I've ever done is I've had like a few like single weeks where I've played 4 or 5 sessions of games, and even if they're streaming, it's like a 3-hour.
Yeah,
you know, it's a shorter thing, and I was just so exhausted at the end that I couldn't do it. I don't think I could keep that up.
I think like I did like 8 sessions over 9 days or whatever, but it was like one of them was, it was like my month to run the fan game, and it was our regular game, and then maybe like an irregular game that we play that's more like kind of a pickup game, and then it was like, you know, a handful of streaming type things that just happened to lump in, and you know, by the time you get to the end of that, you're just like exhausted.
Yeah, no, it is. It can be really exhausting. Like it's really rewarding, or it can be, but I think it takes your emotional energy, and especially just like attention span for me, especially when it's on stream and it's not like the face-to-face experience. Yeah. Like it's harder to, I'm going to be very honest here, it's harder to pay attention for me when it's just on Zoom. And so it takes a little bit of extra, like, what's going on, and making sure I'm with it and taking really good notes, which is also very difficult because my streaming setup is on a table saw, so I don't have a place to.
Yeah, that'll do it.
That'll do it. Yeah, it's a table saw that is covered in Lego, right just behind me right now. I'm staring at Dave, and then lots of Lego.
Lots of Legos. Well, now are they Trogdors or Gems?
There is no difference. Although, actually, specifically, this is Jim's. Jim, he's building a lot of spaceships as just like cool down time.
Yeah.
Like after work, he'll spend 30 minutes and come down here and build a spaceship. Like that's his gardening.
All my nephews are like super into Legos, and Ted as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think they like Lego has some program or whatever, and that he's part of. Like they have their master builders. I don't know. Nerds.
Oh, I've heard of that. There are like competitions. Like you can do like contests and stuff.
Yeah.
And they're like meetup groups and things.
Yeah. Right? Well, he's not that deep, but but you know, I feel like it's some kind of club or something. I don't know, secret handshake or something. I'm not in it. I'm not allowed to know.
No, well, I can tell because you call them Legos. That means that you're not in the club.
Oh, don't. What do they call them when they're in the club?
It's Lego all the time.
Oh.
Singular and plural. It's like sheep. Lego.
I'm probably still gonna call them Legos.
Yeah, I do that sometimes too. They're fun.
Change is hard.
Yes.
So
there are role-playing games based on Lego, you know.
There are?
There's a role-playing game that you can play. I forget what it's called, but there's one where it's like you use minifigs and your character sheet is like made out of Lego. And it's pretty close to like Hero Quest rules from what I remember, because I played it like once. It reminds me of Hero Quest.
Oh wow. I didn't know that was a thing.
It is. It's a thing. It's real.
Now, so there's a company called Brick Warrior, and they do like all kinds of custom like Lego stuff, and they have the minifigs, and they're all like warriors or monsters and stuff like that.
Oh wow.
Which I found that pretty cool. We had gone to it's actually the same expo center where one day when there's not a plague going on, we're going to have our convention. But
Yes.
that was the first time I think I had been to that convention center at Expo Center for a Lego convention. I went with my son and Ted and my brother, which was just cool. Like, I like to see what other people do with them.
Yeah.
But to me, like, tasks like that are very, like, the same reason why I don't paint minis. I find that kind of stuff just tedious, and I'm not good with that. Like,
Yeah, I'm with you.
I did construction for most of my adult life, but it was always like big construction. So like the last job I was on, like a light tool is like 20 pounds. So I don't do well with those tedious and very detail oriented tasks.
I don't do well with fine motor stuff. I have nerve problems, which mean that I can't like do them very well.
Yeah.
I've tried to, and also like bad eyesight. Like I can't, like I see double when I try to paint minis.
The perfect combination.
Right?
I mean, we have discussed doing a segment where it's like Dave does bad crafting.
Nice. You could do that right after Emma runs games poorly.
Yeah, there you go. And so the idea was each episode would probably end up with me making a trip to the ER. So
No. Let's not do that then.
yeah. So Brian has a question. He wants to know what drew you to playing D&D for the first time.
So growing up, I played computer games all the time. And specifically, I knew that I liked things that were called adventure games or role-playing games. So I played like King's Quest and Monkey Island and Betrayal at Krondor and its sequel, which I believe is better, but most people don't, Betrayal in Antara, which is super fun. And all these things that were like very close to D&D type things that I did not know were D&D. I grew up in Vermont. It's a pretty rural community. And grew up in a time when especially then, like, girls weren't supposed to do that kind of thing. And so it's growing up in like rural Vermont is like, do you like soccer or do you like horses? You get to pick which one you like to do.
All the choices.
Yeah. And I hate both of those things. I don't hate horses. I'm just not going to spend any time with horse girls. Sorry. And so growing up, I knew I knew other people thought that I was nerdy, but I didn't know what that meant. And then at 18, I fell in love with Jim Davis and moved to Texas very quickly. And I knew that he played role-playing games. He played D&D. And within maybe 3 or 4 weeks of moving to Texas, we were playing a game called The Riddle of Steel. Do you know what that is, Dave?
I do not. It sounds very Conan, though.
It does. It's less. The game itself was less Conan than the title would imply, but it was very. It's basically just very, very deadly combat mechanics that were supposed to. They're very crunchy and supposed to be very, true to life, even though they kind of weren't. And it was very. Anybody could totally one-shot anybody else with one hit.
Sounds terrible.
It was fun. It was really fun. And then, so we played that a little bit. And then we were going to play D&D. And I was like, oh, I have heard, people have told me this is a thing I'm supposed to like. And so we started playing 3.5. And honestly, it took me 2 or 3 years to actually enjoy it because we were going through, we were trying to find a group that would work well together. And we were playing just like the most god-awful 3.5 modules. Just really bad ones. And it took me a while to be like, okay, what? Do people just like arguing about rules? Is that why people play D&D?
That sounds accurate, especially during 3rd edition. There were lots of rules you could argue over.
Yes. And it was like, I remember I was attending sessions because I was like, I'm going to figure out this mystery. People say I'm going to like this. I don't like arguing about these things. Why do people like to play? And it took until we really got a group with like Jim's old friends, so Pruitt and the other people that we played If you see on our main YouTube channel, the Curse of Razzle Sin series, it took us sort of everybody moving to the same place and actually starting a campaign where I was like, oh, this is why you do this. But yes, I always felt like it was my destiny, and then I met Jim Davis. It's not a very interesting story.
Yeah, it's definitely takes getting the right group together to make it gel and make, like you said, make it fun and not about arguing over rules. And I think the modern gaming has that to like a worse extent, because people are gaming with strangers so much more.
Yeah.
But they never like go through the trouble of getting beyond the stranger part, right? And they meet to play the game, and it's about the game. Where I feel like, when you didn't have the internet and it wasn't as readily accessible, you would meet people and you'd get to know the people, and then the game was kind of be the thing that would happen when you got together.
Yeah, it was that, and it's hard explaining to people now when I talk about like some of the experiences that we had with just really strange people who really were there for the argument. Like, they're always like, why did you keep playing with that person? It's like, you don't understand. It's like, these are the people you had to play with.
Yeah.
Like, if you wanted to play, this is what you did. But you did not have the liberty of finding other people so quickly. And I think it, playing with friends, playing with people that you really know outside of it gives you a certain kind of depth that makes for different kinds of games. I don't think it's the only way to game, because I also think that like a convention game or a one shot with strangers can be like super fun. But it's not going to be fun in the same way. You're not going to be able to read each other's cues and understand what everybody else thinks is fun and sort of set yourselves up for success that way.
Yeah, I mean, that is actually just the great part about the hobby, is you do have the shared interest to bring people together. And then the next step is actually then like getting to know those people. And even if they're online friends, like interacting with them outside of the game, I think that stuff like adds to the game experience. It'll make that time you have gaming better.
I think so too. Yeah, I've got a friend who I talk to about gaming every day, and he lives in New Zealand. Like the chance that we're going to actually be able to ever see each other is like approximately zero. And still, it's like, it's a great time. We have fun. He's writing cool games.
Well, I wouldn't totally rule it out. Conventions are great for that.
I would love to go there. Problem is, Jim Davis hates flying, so if we go that far, we're gonna have to stay for like 3 months so that he can forget the flight.
Oh wow! Well, that part's that could be like part of the game of traveling, right? It's your own little A team. He's your BA Baracus, so you just gotta knock him out before he gets and then get him to the plane.
Pretty much. I mean, literally. We went to England when we were younger, and like it was rough, man. It was rough. Like, he hasn't done another super long flight since then. Like, from where we live, you have to take 2 flights to get to Texas.
Yeah.
So they're short and handleable, but anything over like 4 hours is bad news.
It's not fun. I don't think it's fun for anybody, for sure. But
I don't mind it, but I also drink. And so...
There you go. I always tell myself that I'm just going to go on a plane and go to sleep, but that never really happens either.
I've never slept on a plane ever before. I can't do it. I get a little bit too wired. Like, I do get nervous with flying, but it's not as bad as Jim is.
Yeah. I don't think I get nervous. I just can't sleep when I'm on a plane for whatever reason.
Do you ever like just take Benadryl and knock out, or try to?
I haven't considered medicating myself into it.
Hey, I'm your friend to encourage you to use substances.
I'll keep that in mind next time.
Yes.
Just like trank myself as I get into the seat.
I did. Last time when we went to PAX this year, we flew from up here to New York and then flew up and then drove over. And at the time I had an ear infection. And so they gave me codeine to take on the plane. They were like, just in case, like, you're probably going to be okay, but like, here, take some codeine just for the plane ride. And I will not lie, it was the best plane ride I've ever had. It was great. It's fabulous.
How long was that flight? You guys aren't that far away. And also, it seems weird that you have to go to New York and not Philadelphia.
Oh no, we could have gone to Philadelphia. I'm just very cheap.
Oh yeah.
And so it would have cost like $300 more a person to fly to Philly.
Ugh.
And so
Yeah.
we flew to JFK instead. But no, it's like an hour 10 or something. We don't really say where exactly we live in public.
Yeah.
But we live in northern New England. It's enough that we actually missed our flight on the way back from PAX, so we had to drive back. And we took Trogdor, the 3-year-old, too. And so that was it's like a 9 or 10 hour drive.
Yeah, we've done some of those, like out to Origins and Gen Con.
Oh, yeah.
Gen Con's like 12, 13 hours.
Ugh.
And we were also being cheap at the time because we had more money or more time than money. And,
yeah.
And once you get beyond one person, driving starts to get cheaper.
It's true.
Significantly. But the amount of time it takes to do it is the other thing.
If you're all in one place too. I'm really bummed. This year was supposed to be my first Gen Con
Oh no.
thing. I know.
Had the guys gone to Gen Con before?
No.
Okay.
Never. They'd never gone.
Yeah, it's an experience for sure. Like I don't so far I think like Gamehole Con has been one of my favorites.
That's what they said. They got to go to that 2 years ago, and I wasn't able to go then.
Yeah,
it was great.
We were supposed to go that year and ended up having to bail last minute. We just had a lot of things come up, and it was just became unfeasible. But the following year I had gone, and it is the con where I did the most con stuff I've ever done. Yeah, because usually it's like you're going, it's all meetings and and networking. Yeah. So you're not really doing much of the stuff at the actual convention. And also, too, I think, like, for us, because we're so, like, active online now, like, we have so many friends online, you end up just wanting to hang out with those people more so than doing the convention stuff as well.
Yeah.
So it just becomes, like, the backdrop.
Yeah, that happens. I didn't... this last PAX was the only one where I really felt like I got to sort of do that, because the other times I was just, like... getting in touch and having meetings and doing the whole thing. But the last PAX, I got to play like 5 games that weekend, which is like by far the most that I've ever been able to do. And it was super fun to be able to just like sit down, like, play with a bunch of strangers like I hadn't done for years and years. And it was great. Very good time.
Yeah, it's definitely a cool thing to do. Now, before Nerdarchy, we never really did convention. Like, I never did convention. I should say Ted's always done like small conventions.
Yeah.
But more like pop conventions or super like niche conventions. Like, I know him and his wife for their anniversary for the longest time, they would do the Steampunk World's Fair.
Nice.
As their like anniversary thing.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, and different things like that. So for me, like this has been a totally new experience.
Yeah, it was. We did Wizard World Austin because we lived in Austin for years and years, and so we do stuff there. And then the local game store would do little meetups and like little mini cons, and we would do that. But like PAX 2018 was my first like proper big convention, and it kind of blew my mind.
So for me, like my first one was Origins, and then I did Gen Con, and then so when I went to PAX Unplugged, the first one, to me that was actually a small convention.
That's what I hear people say, and it's still like the biggest one I've been to. And honestly, I'm a little scared of Gen Con. Like,
oh yeah, that's because they turned the whole city into a convention, basically.
Yeah.
So that was and then for Ted that was his biggest convention as well. So I had this like different experience, but and I guess I've been to like Philadelphia Wizard World, but I wasn't really into that as much, to be honest with you. Like it's not the same as going to a gaming convention.
I get kind of. It's sort of like you've been to PAX East before?
I have not.
Oh, that one's actually kind of fun. But it's like there's almost no gaming, like tabletop gaming. There's just tons and tons of video game stuff, which for me is kind of fun to just sort of be around and see what it is. But I'm not really like, I don't get to play games as much as I used to.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, that's just it. Like, I don't play video games, right? I had like my video game experience is like NES, Sega Genesis, arcade games. Like, yeah. So, yeah, and I guess like I did StarCraft for a while. Well, when it was a real-time strategy game.
Yes.
Like. I like that kind of stuff. I don't actually like long story games.
Interesting.
Yeah, when I'm playing, it's so weird because I'm in RPGs so much. But like, I guess when I'm doing that stuff, I'd rather do it as an RPG. But like, video games was always like fighting games and stuff like that, like Street Fighter and.
It's interesting how people go down onto like different camps with it, because we just did a podcast on our Patreon about video games and how we approach them. And Jim is when he's in a like a tabletop game, he very much so plays his character as like, my character is going to do what I want them to do. This is not about me being in character. But if he plays a video game, then he's totally about the immersive experience. Like he never uses like fast travel to go anywhere in games that have it, like Skyrim or Witcher or anything, because he wants to like ride his horse to all the places and think about what it's like. And I'm the total opposite. I play video games to like games like that. It's like, I'm here to steal everything that's not nailed down and win the game. Like, I want to win the game. And then I'm sort of split the difference when I'm tabletop role playing. Like, I like getting into character, but I'm also, that's not like the main reason I'm playing. I'm playing to play the game, you know, have interesting experiences, and not, you know, have like a dramatic improv experience all the time.
Video games, it's about winning.
For me, it's about, well, I'm told I'm competitive. Jim, none of my friends will play Magic with me anymore because I win too much.
I'm not competitive. You just all suck.
You said it, not me.
That's funny. That's great. Joe says, "Don't forget Pong." You know, oddly enough, you know, my first game system was the old school Atari because my dad had it, and like literally, like that's all you had was like it was just Pong. So, I did not have an actual Atari system after that, or the ColecoVision like the really rich kids had. My friends had Atari, but I was kind of a poor kid. It wasn't until like Nintendo came out and that my grandparents would buy us like this system for Christmas every year.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I had a Super Nintendo. Like, my parents bought me one on like the last weekend that you could still buy a Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
So I guess that would have been like 93, 94. And I had like 2 games for it. And that was pretty much my entire video gaming experience, other than renting them from Blockbuster.
Yeah.
Like for like I'd save up my money and like rent it for a weekend and play a bunch of nerdy games that I didn't know were nerdy. All the real-time strategy Pokemon type things.
Nice.
But yes, it's interesting. Like, people's video game experience is going up. Like, Pruitt role plays in real life and he role plays in video games.
Yeah.
Like, that's one thing we kind of want to do. Like, if we don't have enough time to do a stream game, we all want to get together and at least just like stream Baldur's Gate.
Yeah.
Like, that'd be fun.
That No, I have not. We've talked about that like way back when, and it just never happened. There are so many ideas on the cutting room floor that have just never happened. I'm sure it's the same for you guys as well.
Very much so. Very much so.
You just want to do all the things. There's so many ideas,
and then you're like, there's so many ideas you can have, and then you're like, could we do that reliably every week for 2 to 5 years? I don't know.
Nah, maybe not.
Yeah.
It's a huge commitment.
It is. It is. You got to calculate it all. But at the same time, I really want to play Baldur's Gate again. I miss it.
Yeah.
So, might be fun.
My memories of like Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter Nights and stuff is like my brother and Ted and their friends talking about them.
Yeah.
Because they're all a bit younger than me. Like, Ted's a couple years younger than me, and then my brother, who we had done a lot of stuff with early with Nerdarchy and gaming in general, is like 8 years younger than me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it's like almost like a full generation. So
yeah, I played it because like Jim and Pruitt are a little bit older than I am, and so I played them because like people my age were a little bit too young for it.
Yeah.
But then they hit the sweet spot. So they actually, Jim set me up with Baldur's Gate to play it before we played D&D, even though it was a different edition, just to help with like sort of understanding the rules. And then we got to 3rd edition and I was like, there's no Thaco. You set me up.
Yeah. There's no Thaco. That's true. But at least you get some of the lore and stuff anyway. Like the themes and the flavor.
Yeah, no, and it's true, and there's a lot of it that I will never forget. And it was helpful for sort of understanding, okay, like this is the particular flavor of this kind of thing that we're going to be doing.
Which one had Boo and Mince?
I think that was 2. I'm not sure, though.
But that's Baldur's Gate.
Yes, it is Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, like yeah. I know all the references like secondhand because they became like in-game jokes.
They do. They do. They become baked in. I didn't play like Icewind Dale or Neverwinter Nights very much. I played a lot of Diablo back in the day, which is not directly, but it is. And then I played some of Temple of Elemental Evil, but the dice roller on that was broken.
Yeah.
It always like it rolled whatever you rolled minus like 3 or 4 all the time to account for crappy AI.
Yeah.
And so I got sick of that really fast. So it was all like Baldur's Gate and Planescape Torment. That's good. That's worth playing.
Yeah. A little bit later, I did venture into League of Legends for a while.
I've never done that.
Well, you're going to have more 12-year-olds do your mom than ever. But it's kind of, the community's a bit toxic.
That sounds about right.
But you know what I liked about it? I liked that I could play a game in like 45 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes and be done. That's
nice. That's a real, like, that's important. Because I know for me, I get worried about like getting caught up in like a Warcraft type thing.
Yeah.
Like, my main character in World of Warcraft, at the end of it, when I was considering leaving, I looked up how much uptime he had, and it was like 200 days of like waking time.
Yeah.
And I was just like, that's like 2 years of my actual life.
Yeah.
That I've spent. That's going to be, that's more of a percentage of time than I want to be playing this game.
Yeah, I dabbled in City of Heroes a little bit too.
That one's really fun.
Yeah, but with any of that stuff, it's just like, my personality is like, I'll start doing that stuff and then nothing else in my life will happen.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah, I fun fact, I worked at Blizzard for 3 days. And part of the reason that I quit was because I'm out of my NDA period, was because there was a very clear, like, they were very aware that that's what it was like, and they were totally fine with it. And I was like, I don't think I can participate.
You're creating zombies. Like, that sounds like that could be a good modern RPG to play, and the villain is like Blizzard or some corporation like that.
It's like that one episode of Star Trek Next Gen where they'll have like the virtual reality glasses of the addicting game.
Yeah.
And then aliens take over the ship through the game.
Turns out you never needed the aliens.
No, you never did. You just need daily quests.
Yeah, normal society. Yep. We'll do it. Yeah, I mean, that's the main reason why I don't really play video games. It's just because, between family, nerdarchy, and tabletop gaming, I'm like, I just don't have enough time. I'm very focused in my nerdery.
That's good. You have to be, I think.
Yeah.
Like, unless you're independently wealthy with no other people who need you.
Yes.
You have to make some choices.
I mean, even with just playing other RPGs, like, I have friends that will like read book after book. I'm like, how do you have enough time to absorb all these?
Yep, it's true. That's like Jim before WebDM and after WebDM. It's pretty much, if he's reading something, it is an RPG book.
Yeah.
Always.
I don't think RPG books are fun to read. They're fun
not.
to play. It's like stereo instructions to me.
I totally agree. I come from a background of being an editor, and I completely agree. And it's something that once we finally actually get to publishing our own stuff, I look forward to changing. I've tried to in my own freelance.
No, you know it's pretty good. The Fate Dresden Files book. I think so far of all the ones that I've read, that one's been a really good read.
I think I have that. Maybe.
It's less instructional and more like examples, and it's like through the character's point of view.
Yeah.
Which makes it a little more interesting.
There's another one that I like a lot. Like, it's not a good game, but I like reading the book, and that's the West End Games for Xena Warrior Princess.
Okay.
It's a good one that way. It's rather hard to find now, but
it's going back a little bit.
I love Xena Warrior Princess. I intend to run a Xena game at some point. I just don't want to do it with the Xena rules.
Oh yeah. Oh, I bet Ted would love to get in on that. He used to love watching Hercules and Xena back in the day.
I was a big fan, and when I was in college, I ended up helping out a TA who's was writing her PhD dissertation on my favorite episode of Xena Warrior Princess, and it kind of just like cinched in my eternal love for it so much. And another reason why I want to go to New Zealand and just pretend I'm Xena Warrior Princess.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with Lucy Lawless, that's for sure.
No, everything she's done is great. Battlestar, I don't know what else she's done. Just Battlestar and Xena, those are great.
She did have some Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. appearances as well.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. Evil Dead. She was in the Evil Dead show as well.
She was in Evil. Those are fantastic.
Yes. Yeah.
I love that show. I still need to watch like the last four episodes of it, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if they're making any more or whatever I was watching on. I got to the end.
Yeah, I think they finished that out for now anyway.
Yeah. So we are up on the hour because it happens pretty fast.
Okay, yeah, it was a good time.
Let me get out of here.
No, not great. Oh, great! I'm done talking to you. Oh, great! We had an hour. That's wonderful. This is the most I've talked in months and months. I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. It's been a long time since we've chatted, so it was good to get back in here and mix it up a little bit. Final thoughts before we head out?
Not too many. Just thanks for having me. If you don't know what we do, check us out.
Links in the description. They'll be in the pinned comment when that thing shows up.
Yeah. Check us out. I will do Emma Runs Games Poorly at some point. Some point soon.
I think there was a suggestion for Emma Runs Sufficiently.
Emma Runs Sufficiently. Emma runs games competently.
Yeah. I think you'll do great. But with that, until next time, stay nerdy.